And good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of CalVet, we would like to welcome you all into our webinar for disability claims and appeals. This is a hybrid event. We have in-person personnel attendees at the Norco Veteran Resource Center, Norco College. My name is Kirk Eller. I am a training coordinator here at CalVet in the Veteran Services Division. And we'd like to welcome you all to our webinar. So let's kick things off and get started. We have a really good webinar today on disability claims and appeals. I'm going to be going over some brief introductions. I'm going to be covering some CalTAP overview, some of the California specific benefits that you have available to California veterans here. And then my colleague, Merlene Steinbeck, is going to be speaking as a Inland Empire link and what her roles and responsibilities are. And then we have Adam French from the Riverside County Veteran Service Office, and he's going to be talking about claims, disability claims, and appeals. First off, we're going to do some housekeeping. If you have not already, please open the Q&A tab on your toolbar for the Zoom if you're not familiar with that. And if you have any questions for the virtual folks, please type your question in the Q&A. My colleague Derek Rose is running the dials on the back end, and he's going to be putting some information in the chat as well. So if you could open that tab, he'll be putting some resources like a resource book, the link map, etc., as well as a PDF of this webinar, the slide decks in the chat feature. So without further ado, if you have any questions in person, please address it to Merlene or Adam in the in-person portion, and we'll try and get your questions answered. This webinar is being recorded, and we will try to upload it to our YouTube account as soon as we can get it processed and uploaded there. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and kick things off and get started. So I'd like to talk about what the CalTAP program is. CalTAP is actually designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras on their earned federal and state benefits and provide continued support and assistance as those needs change over time. How we like to do that is through our pathways, core curriculum, education, employment, and entrepreneurship. Our fifth pathway is for service providers. So this is an overview of snapshot of our veteran life cycle map. And this is how we'd like to stay connected with you at those different intervals during this time span. As you can see, some of those needs change over time, and we want to stay connected at each one of these milestones, as you will, to provide that continuum of care, because the things that you're looking for benefit-wise when you separate may be much different than they are 5 years or 10 years down the road. So as you can see here, it's a little difficult and small, but you're looking for different benefits. Well, we want to stay connected for that continuum of care as those needs change over time. So this gives you a nice little snapshot of how we can do that, some of the things available. This is CalVet's website, our homepage, so to speak. And then if you see where it's highlighted there, there's a link and you can find where your local county veteran services offices are. Also, there's a hotline in the front for your benefits hotline. And at the bottom, you can see the highlighted link. There's a resource book. And if you click that link, it'll take you to the PDF version and the virtual portion of our California resource book, which is the most up-to-date. Derek will be downloading uploading some of this, the resource book in the chat as well, like I mentioned. This is what our book looks like. And then now let's talk about some of the California benefits available to you here through CalVet. One of our most popular is our college tuition fee waiver. This benefit is for dependents of veterans with a service-connected disability rating of 0 to 100%. And there's 4 plans available. Most common are A and B. We can talk about this a little bit down the road. If you have any questions about these benefits, we can talk about them in the Q&A so we can move forward with our disability portion of this webinar. There's also veteran-designated driver's license and motor vehicle registration fee waivers through DMV programs. You would need to contact your county veteran service office. They will verify your eligibility for that and provide you with the documentation that you need to have this benefit to take to the DMV. And if you're interested in state parks, distinguished veteran pass, or reduced fees for hunting and fishing, you would contact those websites for the state parks, as well as the wildlife website and apply through their website. These require a 50% service-connected disability rating or above, and you will be eligible for those. A disabled veteran property tax exemption and a disabled veteran business license exemption. You would need to have a service-connected disability rating of 100% from the VA, and you would contact your local tax assessor's office, the county that you reside in. This is where you pay your taxes, and each county has a different exemption. Here's some of the CalVet divisions that we have here and provide other benefits. The Veteran Services Division that I work in here, our Home Loans Division has loans for veterans through the state of California. Our Women Veterans Division provides advocacy and outreach for women veterans, as well as our minority and underrepresented veterans. They also provide advocacy and outreach to minority veterans. And they also assist with unnaturalized veterans in providing them naturalization citizenship services. We have 8 CalVet homes for long-term care throughout the state of California, provide excellent care for our aging veterans. And then we have 3 cemeteries throughout the state as well. If you have any interest in any of these information or benefits, you can go to our website and learn more, or you can ask a question in the chat Q&A afterwards. But please feel free to exercise your information on our website. This is how we like to stay connected with you. Primarily, we have social media, our CalVet site, our Instagram, Facebook, and then we also have a YouTube account where we upload our videos that we have from recorded webinars like this. You can register on My CalVet's homepage, and then you can also attend webinars and workshops like this one. And then please take the time to fill out today's survey. There's a QR code and a link here. We encourage you to take that time to fill it out. It only takes a minute or two. And then we value that feedback because we use that information to continually improve these kind of workshops and webinars to provide the information that you're looking for. This is how you'd register for My CalVet on our webpage. Just create an account there and provide the information and then verify your email address, and then you'll be able to receive information from our workshops that will be upcoming, like this one. This is an announcement for workshops like a webinar. You can sign up and register directly through this workshop. This is my contact information, my phone number, then email there, as well as the 800 number that's listed as well as on the back of the book. So I'm going to take this time to turn this over to my colleague, Merlene, the link for the Inland Empire, and she's going to tell you her roles and responsibilities. And I hope you enjoy this webinar. Thank you. Merlene?
Hi, Kirk. Due to privacy concerns with so many students here, I've asked that we keep the camera off, but I'm going to go ahead and have them unmute. My name is Merlene Steinbeck. I am the local interagency network coordinator for CalVet for the areas of Inyo, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties. Next slide, please. I wanted to go ahead and give you a look at that. So as you can see, I travel throughout this red region. And I know a lot of the nonprofits. I know a lot of the community-based outpatient clinics, the vet centers, the people at the county, all over the place. So I am able to just pick up the phone and call somebody if you need something. So that's good. And all of us throughout this area, if you look at the map, are able to do the same. I mean, Orange County, as you can see, it's such a small area down here, but there's just as many veterans in Orange County as my entire district. That said, you could tell that the needs in Orange County is going to be a little bit different than ours. For example, transportation is very difficult out here in some of the desert regions. We have things called shuttles for soldiers and some other programs through DAV that I'm aware of. So I try to communicate, how do we best serve our veterans and close the gaps in services? And everybody throughout the state has different needs. Next slide. As you can see, we provide outreach to service members, veterans, and their families. We make referrals, work directly with the staff of service providers and their networks, assist with local emergencies. So as you saw, if my coworker calls out sick, I'm going to a different part of California, right, to help them. So, for example, on the coastal regions, we had a lot of flooding last year, so I went out there to Central Coast and I was helping because we have like 12 OACs that opened up. So that's local assistance center. When Crestline had a lot of snow impact, people's roofs collapsed, that kind of thing. I was able to be there and they sent me up to Crestline in a 4x4 truck. So I am there. I am on the road. I am there to help you. If you see anybody with a Calvet shirt on, because I'm at the local assistance centers, you're gonna see that, or somebody that says they work for Calvet, we're all very interested in helping you and reaching out to you. We also provide leadership and advocacy to the local communities. So if you see us at community meetings, you'll see us on the planning committees, you'll see us on the steering committees, you'll see us hands-on with the veterans at all times. Next slide. We also connect you to different benefits such as EDD, American Job Centers, California state benefits. So I know people at the county veteran service offices, and it's a huge surprise, but I know people that work at Calvet as well. That's also, I know people at the, yeah, it's a funny joke. VA medical centers, vet centers, anywhere you find veterans or people that help veterans, I'm usually in the know. So if people are like, oh, you know Marlene Steinbeck too? Yeah, you do, because I'm always there helping and trying to get you to the right place. So I do warm handoffs and get you there. I'm not a person that always knows a person. Oh, I know a guy, I know a girl. You know, so people come to me for that. They're like, who do you know? I know somebody else. Next slide. This is my contact information and my work cell phone number. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to my next colleague. I think we're gonna keep going, Kirk. Yeah, at the Riverside County Department of Veterans Services, Adam. He is really good at what he does, and I've worked with him for a long time. Adam, take it away.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Marlene.
Marlene. Hey, Adam, make sure you can if you could, please make sure you're speaking up so that the person on virtual can actually hear you. There was a comment in the Q&A, they having trouble hearing a little bit, just a little different. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you. That's perfect. Thank you.
All right. So welcome everybody. As I said, my name is Adam French. I'm the Assistant Director for the Riverside County Department of Veteran Services. Our job, our position is to be your advocate, your contact for all those things initially that Kirk was talking about at the beginning, how to get in touch with those benefits. And a lot of that is starting with your service-connected disability compensation. Next slide. So this is who we deal with. Federal level, VA, the state level, Calvet, California Association of County Veteran Service Officers, and then we also do some coordination with these other agencies like DAV, American Legion, VFW. We work in close connection with them, whether it's for briefings, whether it's for your benefits. We kind of have an all-encompassing role. Next slide. So I'm just going to kind of touch on this a little bit because I know Kirk talked about like the Calvet benefits, but we are like I said, your connection to the VA, your VA benefits primarily, your VHA, your Veterans Health Administration. We are going to, for those who don't know how to sign up, we help you sign up. We help you understand what your service connected benefits mean as far as your eligibility for healthcare, for pharmacy, for other benefits that might be related to like prosthetics and getting your housing, getting modifications to your house. That's all done through the VHA, and we help you with that. The Veteran Benefits Administration primarily is your compensation. We help you with all these things listed, like the VRE or your education and training. If you need to get your certificate of eligibility for your VA home loan, those types of things. And then as far as your national cemetery, it's really more explaining what some of those benefits are. And then what we would do is, if the veteran has passed for a surviving spouse, we help with that process of getting some reimbursement if there's eligibility. Next slide. So what do we do? Primarily like I said, what we primarily do is help veterans with their service-connected disability. As you can see here, from 2021, 2022, the work that we did brought in almost $29 million in new funds for the counties. This is your service-connected compensation. This is your disability compensation that, and that's the amount, what was brought in. And you can see on average, the new award was about $4,300 in new benefits. Next slide. So the types of assistance, comprehensive benefits counseling. So everybody's different. What we need to do is kind of sit down with you and kind of figure out what your situation is. What did you go through? What kind of, what do you need to do to file? What do we need to do to file your claim to make that more successful? It's not always as easy as just doing the paperwork. There's some people there's work involved in it. We have to go get some evidence. So that's what we do, is kind of sit down with you and go through that, figure out what we need to do on our side and what needs to be done by the veteran themselves. Networking with other agencies, that's kind of what I was talking about before. If you need to get in touch with, if we need to get you in touch with your healthcare or some of your other CalVet benefits. Dependency, so your dependents, we are there for them as well to file their claims for non-service related pension, or in the event of the veteran's passing, the dependency and indemnity compensation. We can help with your requesting your service records, your service medical records, get you on the right path for your discharge upgrade if need be, and the other things that Kirk was talking about, like your veteran designation, college fee waiver. Those are all done at our office. Next slide. So what is a service-connected disability? It's an injury or illness caused by service that was either first diagnosed in service, or if it was a pre-existing condition that was aggravated by service. It must be chronic in nature. The difference between chronic and acute, if you hurt your knee on a PT run and you never had any problems with it, that's not something that you file later on because it was a one-time thing. If that knee injury led to chronic injuries or chronic pain, that's what we what the VA is looking for as far as their as far as the requirements for disability compensation. Next slide. So, like I said, the three things that they're looking for is that in-service event or injury. That's generally starting in your service medical records. If it's not something there, it could be something that you were exposed to, like your service in the Middle East, or for some veterans, the service in Vietnam. So there has to be something that that happened in or because of service. You must have a current diagnosis of the condition you're claiming. You must show that it exists in order to claim it. And then a nexus or a link. This is the connection. How is your current disability related to that in-service event? If I had a knee injury in service, I get out of service, and 10 years later, I want to claim a knee injury. We have to prove that it's the same injury, not a new injury from playing basketball, playing football, something like that. We have to do the work that helps show that that's what the VA is looking for. And that's the biggest thing that gets people is they'll see a doctor in service and they'll say for their knee, and like I said, 10 years later they're trying to claim it, and the VA will say, well, there's no evidence that this is the same injury. So a lot of the work goes into trying to answer that nexus. Next slide. Next slide. So this is just a quick little flow chart of what we do when you first come into our office. Like I was saying, we do that benefits counseling. We're going to go over your situation, figure out what we need to do to answer those three elements. Generally what we do, you can't see it here, it's a little covered up, but it says an intent to file. What that does is it holds the effective date of your claim. It tells the VA, I'm going to file a claim and I'll file it within the next year. As long as you file it within the next year, they'll hold that date and back pay you to that date. So then we help you in most cases. Sometimes veterans don't know I don't remember what I was treated for, so we help get your records and look through there, kind of figure out what do we need to file a claim for. We review your records. Were you here? Were you stationed on this kind of on this ship? What were you? What's the circumstances of your service? And then we help you kind of, okay, here's what we might be able to do. We can look at filing this. Here's the evidence that we need. I need you to go get a diagnosis, that kind of stuff. We have to work through that, kind of figure out what it is for you. Then you file your claim. During your claim, you're going to attend a compensation and pension examination. This is that independent medical evaluation that the VA will send you to evaluate to provide a medical opinion to the VA on if that doctor believes your condition is service related, and then they will find out the severity of it. So that's the two parts of your rating. Is it service connected? How bad is it? Next slide. So we at our office, we're kind of like we can be an initial stop for you. What we do is we connect you with an attorney at no charge. We partner with the Veterans Legal Institute. We kind of help get you through that, but we also guide you on that. Okay, here's some of the evidence that they're looking for. If those who need discharge upgrades, because some of those discharges, the other than honorables or the general discharges, that there's a lot of legal aspects to it that we need to connect you to an attorney, and we have that connection that an attorney is no cost to you. So that's what we do at our office. Next slide. All right. So the biggest change is with relation to your service connected disability happened in 2022, the PACT Act. What this does, it does a lot of things. The main thing that it does is that it first adds locations for both Vietnam and the Gulf War, the Middle East. It adds certain locations that if you were in those locations during a certain time period, the VA will presume that you were exposed to either Agent Orange or to burn pits or some other environmental toxins. That goes back to what I was talking about, the nexus. Your service in that location would be your in-service event. If you have one of those disabilities, and I'll go over them in another slide, then that VA has done the work on that nexus or that link connecting the two together. Next slide. It also, this is a little bit outdated because just recently, I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, President Biden signed in an update to the PACT Act healthcare eligibility. They were doing it in phases depending on when you served it, but now anyone can go in and get in and can get your healthcare. You don't have to wait. There's no phases. You need healthcare at the VA, you go in and they can get you signed up. Our offices can do the paperwork too. Next slide. Next slide. So that's more that healthcare eligibility. Okay. So the big change for Vietnam veterans, it added these 5 new locations. The biggest one being the Thailand, but it also adds Laos, Cambodia, Guam, and Johnson Atoll as if you served in those locations during the dates that you'll see here. If you served there, like I said, the VA will presume that you were exposed to Agent Orange. You don't have to prove, like you used to, that you were exposed. And then the next slide will go over those disabilities. Next slide. So these are the disabilities that the VA associates automatically with that exposure to Agent Orange. The ones that were added as a result of the PACT Act too were Parkinson's, and high blood pressure, and then it might be covered up. There's an MGUS, it's another disability, but any one of these conditions for any veteran that served in any of the Vietnam or any of those locations I just had up, the VA will presume that this disability is because of that exposure. Next slide. So similarly for OIF, OEF, Middle East veterans, if you serve in any of these locations, and there's the dates, or in the airspace above any of these locations, The VA will presume that you were exposed to burn pits or other environmental toxins. And then next slide. These are the medical conditions associated with that exposure. Primarily, you're talking about respiratory issues and cancers. That's what we generally are seeing. But if your condition is on here and you served in one of those locations, we can file that claim for you and get you service connected for that. Next slide. So how do we find us? Next slide. As you see the rivcoveterans.org, that's our website. You can just go to the contact us page, and it'll bring up an email note. You can just email, it'll send it right. Actually, it'll come to me. So you can reach out and I'll connect you with the veterans representative in your area. Next slide. And this is our information. We have 3 offices right now: Riverside, Hemet, and Indio. We're opening Temecula soon. There's our website, and there's our telephone number. That one phone number will get you in touch with any one of those offices, no matter where you live. So you can just speak to the office assistant, and if there's an appointment that you want in any one of those locations, they'll set it up for you. And I believe that's it. Next slide. Is that it?
Thanks, Adam.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm gonna takes a little bit of time here. We appreciate Adam and we're going to be going over some Q&A in just a moment, but we would like you guys to take a little bit of time to fill out our survey. If you could, there's a QR code and a survey link here. It only takes like a minute, like I was mentioning before. We do value that feedback, and we want to continually improve so that we're meeting your needs as veterans on the topics that you're looking for. So I'll leave that here for just a quick minute. And then we're going to get to some Q&A. My colleague Derek is chiming in now. He's got the camera on, and he's going to open up his microphone, and we're going to address the questions that were put in the Q&A. So if you do have a question, please, focus that Q&A tab. We will try to get to it. I would like to make a mention. Please try to keep some personal information in the general nature, nothing of specific diagnoses or personal information related. If they're on the general term, we can try to answer those. If you have a specific question that's that in depth, please contact one of the county veteran offices, or you can email us at calvet.ca.gov. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to my colleague Derek Rose. He's on the camera there, and he's going to be answering some of the questions that will go ahead. Derek, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, everyone, for the great information. I'm going to go through some of these questions. Like Kirk said, sometimes, these questions can get a little personal in depth, but I will try and facilitate these as best as I can. And I'll probably rely on, some of the VRC staff there to assist. So the first question is from Jerry. Jerry asked, he originally had a 10% rating on his hypertension, but it was reduced down to a 0% rating during a C&P exam. I imagine that would have been like a reevaluation exam. He said he got the original 10% rating in 2005. Kind of what's the process and document that he needs to get back that 10% rating for hypertension? So if any of our CVSO folks would have any insight on that, feel free to respond.
Derek, it's Adam. I can answer that for you.
Thanks.
So whenever you, kind of what I touched on before, whenever you're filing a disability claim, one of those parts of is during the evaluation, they are looking at the severity. The VA has a regulation that lists out every medical condition and what each severity, as the severity increases, what that rating should be. So a lot of it is based on what's in your medical records. And then what happens at the examination. One of the biggest problems that I see when we're talking about reevaluations is a veteran may not go to a doctor for a certain period of time, so that there's less medical records, and when they file the reevaluation, and if they're not going to a doctor, the VA reads that as the condition may have gotten better, or if you're not taking certain medication that has been prescribed, the VA reads that as you may have gotten better. So there's a lot of different factors in, but it comes down to primarily what's in your medical records and what did that examiner say. But this is why it's important to see a VSO. What you can come into our office, we can get access to your claim if we don't already have it. We can read the VA's decision, and then we can explain why they came to that and what we need to do to appeal it or to reopen the claim, whatever that might be.
Great, thank you so much. Next question, anonymous asks, just got approved for a 90% VA disability rating, currently unemployed. What services am I eligible for? So just, I can touch on that. So just your basic disability compensation rated at the 90% rating. If you're unemployed, you might want to seek information on veteran readiness and employment services to help you get job training, for whether that's, on the job training or education benefits, to use towards degree to get you employed. You're also eligible for VA healthcare services. So it can kind of just be a wide range of things that you're eligible for. But if any of the anybody from the CVSO office wants to maybe touch on that as well, just to kind of piggyback on that question as well, that would be appreciated.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll just,
go ahead, Adam. You're the expert. I just wanted to touch on maybe unemployability if they have the 90%, maybe to reach that 100% unemployability.
yeah, so that was going to be the first part. So again, see a CVSO. That way they can look at what your rating is. If you're 90, if you have a disability rating, one medical condition rated at 40% or higher, then they can look at the unemployability, meaning if you are unable to work as a result of your service-related disabilities, you may be able to earn the benefits and the compensation of somebody that is rated 100%. And all the same benefits would apply as if you were rated 100% outright. But everything else, because you're over 50%, you're going to get your health care with no co-pays, whether the condition that you're being treated for is service related or not. There's a number of, like Kirk was talking about before, the CalVet fee waiver. There's a number of different things. So that's just a brief touch on those. If you have specific questions, if you want to explore that unemployability, talk to one of our CVSOs.
Thank you. Elizabeth asks, I currently have medical with VHA. Do I or can I qualify for dental care? So I know that there's some stipulations with VA dental care. So would anybody be able to answer that a little bit more specifically?
Yeah, so you'd have to be 100% in order to get dental from the VA, or have a dental condition that is rated by the VA. But typically what that means is that one tooth or one area that is rated is the only thing that the VA will take care of. But for dental, it's 100% permanent and total, and the VA will you'll get dental care through the VA.
Thank you. Scott asks, he lives in Orange County. He said, can I get assistance through your office? He had a bad experience in Orange County. I would say, of course, yes. You don't always have to live in the county of where you're seeking services. So I would encourage you to reach out to Adam's office, and perhaps they can piggyback off of that too. But yes, just because you live in that county doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go through that specific county veteran service office. But anybody wants to close on those remarks, feel free as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And if you're 100% right. What I would say is if you're able to and technically savvy, you can just call our offices. Most of these things can be done over the phone, over the internet, so you don't have to drive from Orange County to Riverside County.
Elizabeth asks again, is there a statute of limitations on claiming or filing a claim for a service-connected disability?
So there's no statute of limitations. What I will say is that the farther you are from your discharge from your service, the harder it is to address that nexus, to show that the condition is because of service. Unless it's one of those the presumptive conditions related to that toxic exposure I explained. So no, there's not a statute of limitations. It just the claim may be a little bit more difficult to prove.
Marco asked, he said he received a letter a long time ago stating that his unit was in one of those locations covered by the PACT Act. Was that considered a valid evidence for service in one of those areas? Or maybe even touching on a little bit more about what evidence is required to show proof of service in one of those presumptive condition areas?
Yeah, so yes, that's perfect evidence. 9 times out of 10, that your service in that area is already going to be within your personnel records. So when the VA accesses those, they'll see that. If there's ever a question, then submitting orders, or you can even, we get creative by submitting orders for your awards that say, while in Iraq, did this, and this. So those types of things, any kind of military documentation that puts you there is sufficient. Literally anything. So if you have orders that put your unit there, that's perfect.
Chris asked, can we get a copy of the slides? Yes, I will do that. We'll drop a PDF in the chat feature for everyone. So if there's any other questions relating to sharing the slides, I will be sending that out shortly here after we get through the Q&A. So I believe Henry asked, what's the rating for sleep apnea? I guess just the kind of across the board rating, or I guess the minimum rating for sleep apnea.
So, I mean, the minimum rating would be 0. There's the most common is 50% if you have if you have to have and use a CPAP device. That's the most common, but there's 0, I think 30, 50, and 100. So those are the possibilities for sleep apnea. It just depends on, again, what's in your medical records and what are those, what that examination saying, what are those medical requirements.
Henry asks again, where can I get a list of disability ratings for different conditions? So there's a lot of different ratings for all types of conditions. A lot of them are listed in this book right here. But if there's maybe some insight on a more of a direct, just kind of listing for all of the conditions that are possible, or where a veteran can kind of find what those conditions are.
I would say 38 CFR 4.25. That's where it's all going to start. But I wouldn't recommend just reading that, though. If you have a medical condition and you think it might be related to service, speak to a rep, and that way we can kind of walk you through that.
Okay, so Mike asks, he's currently stationed in San Diego, will be retiring in 2025. He's a Texas resident, but his oldest daughter wants to go to SDSU. Am I eligible for any benefits? So the good news is that as long as your child is a California resident, you don't have to be a California resident, and you have a service-connected disability with the VA, then that child is eligible to use the college and tuition fee waiver, and SDSU would apply. So it just kind of depends on what your rating is. If it's 100% or less than 100%, they might have to meet those income threshold requirements. But as just to answer your question, and we get this question all the time, is that you do not have to be a California resident. It just applies to your dependents. So they just need to meet residency requirements as determined by the school. And if you're filing for Plan B, they need to just meet the income threshold, which was just bumped up recently to, I think, a little over $20,000 that they can't make over on their taxes. So it just depends on what your rating is. But that is what they would be eligible for here in the state of California. If anybody else has anything, but I think that pretty much covers the question. Right. Let's move forward here. All right. Scott says, thank you. A lot of questions about sharing the slides. So again, we're going to be sharing these slides in the chat feature. So if there's any more questions about sharing the slides, I will go ahead and drop those in the chat after we get through the Q&A. No, Scott, you asked, Scott has a few questions in here. A lot of this is kind of personal with specific conditions, right? So my recommendation is if, you have really specific questions about your conditions or your claim, at least just make note of some of the contacts that you've reached out to today, and just kind of, connect with them directly. That way that somebody, an accredited VSO can really look over your information and just provide you really the most accurate information. So, just make notes of the names and emails that have been shared today. And I would ask some of these questions to our points of contact. Jay asks, can I get more information on the disabled veteran business license tax? Is this similar to an LLC account? Disabled veteran business license tax. Well, there's the business license fee waiver, right? So if you're applying for a business license, whether that's through like a city or a county office, they should be able to waive those fees for you. So there's additionally the disabled veteran property tax exemption, which is different through your county. I'm not sure if that's specifically what you're asking about, but that would be if you own a home, you're a disabled veteran, and that would be an exemption on your property taxes. So you would just need to apply through that through your county assessor's office. I'm going to kind of clear some of these out here as we're going along. So bear with me. Duke asked, he was denied VRNE. Is there a team available to help appeal with any type of VRNE cases? I think perhaps, go ahead.
Yeah, our office can do the same thing. So really any kind of denial, whether it's service related or education or anything else, or even hospital related, if there's a denial and you want to appeal it, a VSO can help you. So contact the VSO office. What they'll need to do is see the reason for the denial and help you formulate that appeal.
How can I increase my PTSD rating? And my sleep apnea disability was denied, although they provided me a CPAP.
So the fact that the VA hospital diagnoses you with something does not in and of itself mean that the condition is service related. They're your hospital. They will treat you for anything. To get it service related, we have to see if they denied you, we have to look at that denial and find out what one of those, again, those three elements, one of those wasn't met, one or more of those weren't met. So a VSO would have to read that decision, figure out what that was, and then determine what evidence may be needed at that time. I'll tell you, with my experience with sleep apnea, that the VA, if you were not diagnosed in service, tends to deny those unless you get a letter from your doctor saying that they believe that the sleep apnea is related to service or to one of your service-connected conditions. That's the most common denial I see for sleep apnea. As far as your sleep apnea, I'm sorry, your PTSD, again, make sure you're receiving treatment for it. If you are, go see a representative to file that claim. They'll submit the records and they'll get you prepared for for that examination.
Patrick asked for the PACT Act. He says, can we just claim all of the illnesses on the presumed list, although it's not in the medical record? My answer is you do need a diagnosis for those conditions, but I'll turn it back over to CVSO to provide some clarity on that as well.
Nope, you're 100% right. So, I mean, can you file for it? Yes. Are they going to grant it? No, because if you don't have lung cancer, for example, they're not going to grant service connection for lung cancer. The PACT Act is a reason for a medical condition, a reason to claim something, but it's the medical condition that you're claiming, and you must have the medical condition in order to file.
Elizabeth asks, what's the rating you have to have for your home property tax exemption? It's 100%. You need to be rated 100% by the VA, and then you can apply through that exemption through your county assessor's office. Marco asks again, a vendor came in and said that their permits are free for them because they're a veteran. How can someone attain this information and pass it along? This information is on our website, as well as our California Veterans Resource Book that we dropped in the chat. So again, this is not a benefit that's directly administered through CalVet, but it is kind of more of just a resource sharing guide. So if you're going to be applying through a license, whether it's like a city or a county, you just want to make sure that that office is, honoring a veteran's exemption for that fee. So it's just kind of up to that individual office. But my understanding is that those fees should be waived for veterans obtaining those licenses or permits. This is a good question. So Henry asked again, he's retiring in March. I think he asked this even before the webinar started. How soon can somebody start their disability claim while on active duty?
We're talking about this March or next March. You can start your claim. It's called the benefits delivery on discharge. You can file that claim anywhere between 90 and 180 days before your discharge. So if we're talking about you're discharging sometime this month, then you'd have to wait until your discharge date. If you're talking about next year, then the earliest you can do it is 180 days from the date of your discharge.
So Vaughn asks, for those that were in the Guard, does IRR status count as in service time? He served a 6x2 and was diagnosed during the 2 years he was on IRR. And to clarify, he was diagnosed with sleep apnea during IRR status.
So no, if you were diagnosed with a medical condition that it was outside of your those 6 years is what I'm understanding. But it's even trickier when you talk about Guard and reserves. You have to show that the medical condition was caused either during one of your active duty times or during one of your drill periods. So if it was something that happened during those 6 years, but it happened while you're at home, the likelihood of that getting approved is low because it may not have happened during one of your activations. But to answer your question more directly, those 2 years of IRR are not a time period that the VA counts you for service related.
Thank you. Anonymous asks again, I have a rating for PTSD due to MST that was documented. If I had another MST that wasn't documented, could I still file a claim for the undocumented MST?
So, I mean, not really, because they're only going to give you one rating for the PTSD MST. The separate incidents aren't going to give you a separate service connection. And then the rating will come depending on how your combination of these two situations, how they are currently affecting you. So do they cause you depression, anxiety, sleep issues, those types of things? That's what they're looking for. So they're not going to separately rate you for separate conditions.
Duke asks, I was diagnosed with severe sleep apnea just a week before I got my claim denied. Is it because the reviewer did not see the updated medical diagnose or deem there is no nexus?
It could probably be both. So if you had already gone to the examination and they did not see a diagnosis, that is a sure reason that they're not going to grant sleep apnea or any condition. But they could also have written an opinion in there that they don't believe anything from your service was the cause of it. It depends on what they wrote, but both of those are likely.
And then one last question from Duke says, could allergic rhinitis be the nexus for sleep apnea?
It certainly could, but that's up to the medical examiners. So the exam that they send you to, that doctor's providing a medical opinion. You can also submit a medical opinion from your doctor to help strengthen your claim. But yes, it could. It depends on what the medical examinations say.
All right. Well, no more open questions. Thank you very much to the Riverside County and Norco VRC team. I'm going to turn it back over to Kirk, and then I'm going to be putting some additional information in our chat to include our PowerPoint and our survey. With that, Kirk, I'll turn it back over to you.
Derek, thank you very much. Great job on the questions. Also, I'd like to add that we will be recording. This is being recorded, and we will upload this webinar at a later date on our YouTube channel. So you can actually go to YouTube and just search CalTAP. Look on the webinars for that as well. The slide on here has been on here for our contact information for a while. So hopefully you've had some time to take down our names, emails, as well as Adam's. And with that being said, I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. We have some upcoming webinars and workshops throughout the month. Just take a quick note of some of the topics available coming up throughout the rest of March, all the way through the end of the 28th on various topics. If you sign up for the My LinkedIn or the My Calvet, you can actually receive that workshop weekly report, and you can sign up and register for any one of these workshops on that site. And with that, no more questions. I know we're right on time here. This is our 800 number and our contact information for Calvet, our website, and our email for CalTAP is listed there as well, caltap@calvet.ca.gov. We want to thank you all for your service and for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon on another one of our workshops. I would like to extend a thank you to all of the Veteran Resource Center folks out there at Norco, Eric Betancourt and his staff, and we want to thank them for allowing us to partner with us for this workshop. For everyone in the attendance in person, Merlene, did we have any questions from the audience there that you wanted to address, or Adam that we needed to answer?
Look like it.
It doesn't
Great.
look like we have any questions, but thank you so much for all the information.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody there, and it was good doing the webinar in person as well as virtual. So again, thanks to the VRC staff there at Norco College. That being said, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will see you again soon. Have a great afternoon, everyone.